Open your mouth. Spread your legs. Clear. Let's go.
What up, what up, what up? It's your boy, BX Tone in the building. Yo, today, Supreme from Rosedale pulled up. He gonna share a story with us. He been through mad trials, tribulations, ups, downs, you know what I'm saying? But successfully, he done came back, and now he's providing different interventions in the community. So with that being said, BX Tone, Dog in the Yard, let's get into it. Peace.
What up? You already know it's your boy Pistol Pete. Welcome back to Dog in the Yard. You can see I got my co-host Tone BX in the building.
What up, what up, what up? It's your boy BX Tone in the building. And today we got my man Supreme,
right.
Rosedale. Talk to me, baby.
Peace, brother.
Peace.
How you been, man?
I'm doing good, man, you know.
Thank God.
Happy to be here.
That's
you know, I
what's up.
want to congratulate the brothers for the platform that they have, Dog in the Yard.
Appreciate
After
you.
36 years of my demo, this is the first time I felt comfortable to come in the platform and tell about who I am.
That's a fact. Appreciate you.
No doubt, man. BX.
Hard body.
Queens. Brooklyn.
Talk to us. Listen, man, listen. You know, at the end of the day, you know, we want people to walk away with the fact that, you know, our platform is a platform that's geared towards prison reform. You know, and who better to talk about prison reform except people that actually experience, you know what I'm saying, the plights of being inside of the carceral environment. You understand what I'm saying? So, you know, it's a peaceful platform. It's a platform that's geared towards giving people examples of what they can possibly be. In many instances, what we find is that the people who come out of the carceral environment and fail are the ones we see on the news or the ones we see people having podcasts about, right? This platform is about the individuals who came out of prison, turned their life in another direction, and began to win. With that being said, I want to pass it to my bro, Pete. Talk to him.
So, Supreme, what's up, man? You know,
going on,
you're
brother?
looking good. I see you bring a lot of merch up here and all that.
No doubt. Everybody know me for my merch, man, because my merch represent what I grew up doing, merch.
Okay. All right.
Number one draft pick, huh?
Let me see. You got some nice colors and all that, nice summer joints.
Flavors.
And all that. We love that. I love to see brothers, you know, take charge, you know what I'm saying, and do what they got to do, you know what I'm saying, in other levels, rather than you know, the street shit, the old regular way that we was born and raised with, right?
Definitely.
You know, with that being said, you know, just, you know, with the environment that we all, you know, obviously, you know, are raised in, you know, we happen to just always, we don't, as kids and all that, we just, seems that we always want to look at the, you know, the faster way, you know. When we was young, we didn't really have nobody out there like, you know, that we could look up to and shit like that we could say, yo, wow, look at those guys. They doing hats, they doing shirts, they doing T-shirts, they doing sweaters. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't have that.
We didn't have that.
And if we did, right, the guy that was selling hats and shirts and sweaters and, you know, the guys who are artists that, you know, doing graffiti and drawing stuff, they ain't seem like the guy that was gonna make it out of the hood. They didn't seem like the guy that would turn into the multimillionaire. So the reality of it is that some of the younger people, when they seen that, they didn't see that as something that they wanted to idolize. A lot of times it was the hustlers, the drug dealers, the gangsters,
the street shit
that jumped out at the younger people. And a lot of us
stories.
decided to be that. You know what I'm saying?
Especially for us OGs, you know what I mean?
That's a fact.
Because that's basically all we had. That's all the platform that the demos that was being laid. But I know, you know, for the program itself, my name is Emmanuel Pierre-Louis, you know, young kid from Haiti. You know, I came from Haiti in 1972.
Got
You know what I mean? We moved out into Brooklyn. And from Brooklyn in 1974, I moved out to Rosedale, which is Godsdale, we called it. But at that time, I was just a little kid in a total white neighborhood.
Wow.
Rosedale at that time, most of you guys know, was known for racism. You know, whiteys not wanting the blacks there. But, at the time, from coming from the island, I didn't even understand or know what racism was.
Got you. Right, so what was the dynamics of your household? Like, low income, high income, mom and dad, or only your mom?
Regular income. I want to praise my mother for bringing me out of BK and bringing us to an environment where I was able to walk around, doors left open, and even though there was some form of minute racism that I faced, it wasn't nothing that I would have had to deal with in Schaefer between Bushwick and Broadway,
Gotcha.
where I was originally. So with that being said, I have 4 sisters. I'm the 4th one. I have 3 older sisters, and I'm the 4th one, and I have a young sister.
Got you.
My mom worked several jobs, as you guys know, in order for us to maintain in that home and food and shelter. My father also worked a job, but he was medically down. He was sick. He had diabetes, so he was slowly. So he wasn't really on his game with me. So I had free range, basically.
So you basically just came up with all sisters in the household. You didn't have no older brothers or younger brothers?
No older brothers, nobody to look up to.
Got you.
I was basically a lost child.
Well, you looked up. I know you probably looked up to dad, but like you said, because he was under a set of circumstances, he wasn't really somebody you could see as an idol.
I always looked up to my dad because of his seriousness. That I remembered him always leaving out a little circle of money for each one of us, and feeding us, taking us to place. So I had that. The nurturing part of him, which is what helped me not be too much of a loose cannon, because I always knew that there was nurturing in me. So, yes, you're right. I had that.
Right.
But something that kids don't have today is freedom.
Gotcha.
I had a lot of freedom. And that's something, we can get into a little bit more. But pretty much I, grew up in a fairly decent neighborhood. And part of the reason why I want to bring my story today is because Rosedale played a part in South Jamaica as well. But, no one talks about it, which is cool. No one's looking to talk about it, but it is a story. And I'm from that story, and I have the right to let it be known.
So when you talk about South Jamaica got rich history. You know what I'm saying? I got a lot of comrades from the South Side. But how's it situated? So I know you got Jamaica houses, South Jamaica houses. Then you got the Baisley projects. You got Rosedale. So tell me, how's Rosedale situated in relation to how the Baisley projects is here, South Jamaica is here.
Rosedale basically is situated where we're like the prima donna. You know what I mean? We were known to be a white neighborhood. So if you lived in Rosedale, you had money, you were good, you had a 2-parent household, and most people didn't go into Rosedale because they know they'd be spotted, cops or whatever. So it was kind of a safe haven too.
Okay.
You know what I mean? People might say that, how did he make it to? Because, people didn't want to come there to come get me. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
They stay, because I kind of lived in the tip of Rosedale, and there was a little small bridge, and that other half of the bridge was pretty much black. Okay. You know what I mean? Then you have Springfield, you have Lawrenton, you have, Rockaways. So there were things in between Rosedale and South Jamaica, Rosedale and Baisley.
Got you.
South Jamaica, but ultimately it was all the same, because niggas was coming from South Jamaica into Rosedale when I was young, because we had like a strip. Like they had 150, we had 228th Street.
Okay, and what was on those strips?
Well, those strips was where the dealers, drugs, everything was sold out of there. Okay. Weed, coke, whatever cats had to sell, mescaline back then, Prelude.
So you basically what he's saying is that you had like different strips with individuals, kind of did their little hustling, their illegal acts or whatever. So Rosedale had a strip where that was carried out, but then there was also 150 that happened on the South Side where other individuals went to get their hustle on.
Correct.
Right, copy.
Around that time, I was a young kid going to school. I played Little League football.
What year?
Yeah, like about how old?
I guess maybe in the 70s, going to high school, middle school, and, playing Little League football. Shout out to Rosedale Jets. Shout out to June and Jack, who has a phenomenal Rosedale Jet program football.
Today?
Today.
All right,
I played back then. And
shout out to Rosedale Jets. We see y'all. Appreciate the good work you're doing in the community.
Right. Keep doing your thing.
And that was pretty much what started me off to start finding out who I was.
Got you.
So, I made Little League newspapers. I was doing very well. And I went to Springfield and played for Springfield Gardens. And at that point, I was playing, outside linebacker.
Got you.
Same position as LT, strong corner.
Okay.
And at that point, the coach labeled me a street fighter. You know, and being a loose kid that didn't have no groundings, my thing was just attack the ball.
Gotcha.
You know, fundamental out the window, study plays out the window. And how he knew that is because I blew a few coverages.
Okay.
But when it came to the ball coming my way, it was straight kill.
Gotcha.
And to a point where I was labeled street fighter. So right then and there, I knew there was something different about me. You know what I mean? That energy, that to go get. You know, I had that predator.
But you know,
energy
I like to exemplify, like highlight this point that he's making, because a lot of times people outside of inner city communities or marginalized communities or underprivileged communities, they think that young people that come from the communities struggle or suffer from low self-esteem. It's a myth. Many of us inside of low-income communities, we play sports. We have the ciphers where you have the individuals from the religion, the Nation of Gods and Earth, where we would come together and we would talk about knowledge, wisdom, understanding, power. This was happening inside of the underprivileged communities. At least I can speak for New York City, right? And I call everybody that participated in any of that in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and even today, the great debaters, because we would have our ciphers and we would talk about powerful concepts and ideas, and those are the things that shape the minds of individuals like Supreme that's sitting here with us today. So just thinking about some of the confidence that was built in him, although he was inside of a low-income community or a community that was kind of moderate, right? He still began to understand the resiliency that happened inside of him and the self-efficacy, the ability to get to certain points, right? From within himself.
And I want to add something to what he's saying. In the process of discussing playing football, off-timing, we were presented into the Nation of Islam. There was a brother named, Muhammad, not Muhammad, but Muhammad. He gave us knowledge of self.
Gotcha.
And when I accepted to learn knowledge, that kind of brought a lot of additional perspective to me. And one thing I could remember was when him saying, well, I want you to go and figure out what your name going to be, and make sure you pick out something that you want to live.
Well, define knowledge of self, because some of our viewers may not understand what knowledge of self is, but it's a thing, it's a concept inside our community.
For me, knowledge of self is broadened, obviously, but to keep it simple, knowledge of self is to know who you are, know where you come from.
Facts.
Look at who you are, your parents, your heritage, and not just that alone, being a black person. Who are you? And that's why, I could sit here in an early stage and say I was lost and trying to find myself, which most of us are. A lot of these participants are young, we're lost.
But let's think about the connectivity. Pete was raised inside that. I was raised inside the Nation of Gods and Earths as well. So you're talking about it, but we already have that same history coming from the South Bronx, and you have it. But it just speaks about a culture that was happening in New York City, and that's continuously happening in New York City. But we want the world to know. That's why we got this platform. That's why the bro built the platform. That's why I'm here with him. That's why you contributing, because we want the world to know what we're doing and how we're organizing communities and reforming communities inside the prisons as well as out. So I pass it back to you. Preem, talk to us, baby.
Yeah, and basically, that was the time I looked deep into myself, who I was, what I felt, and I thought the name that would be befitting for me was Supreme Great God Allah. So from that day on, I set high standards for myself.
That's right.
And everything. Like I said, our family, I didn't need to hustle to eat. I didn't need to hustle to feed my family. I basically was kind of like a predator, a hunt. We was a sports. We just wanted to be the best that we could be, which transformed all the way to my whole life from, Supreme to first choice to number 1 draft pick. So my game plan was to always strive.
Gotcha.
And that being into me and me having knowledge of self, there was a sense of wannabe. And that wannabe brought me to the streets. Right. And like we spoke earlier, the brother BK Tone said earlier.
BX, baby, talk to me.
Pardon me, brother. I'm learning,
International tone.
We all have trauma. I want to say my trauma is named. Back in the days, we didn't try to remember names, so we didn't have to tell. Or if something happened. So I always have a problem remembering name at first. It's not a disrespect. It's just it's just the trauma that I have.
Listen, I'm like that too.
It takes me a while to
Yeah,
capture
if it's
names.
not a
'cause
catchy name, it
I don't
definitely ain't
be
gonna
wanting to
remember
know
it.
names. You
That's
know
a
what I
fact.
mean?
That's a fact.
But with that being said, we saw a lot of things. I had a crew of 15 plus. You know how the guards do.
Right.
We build, anybody. And
Facts.
Rosedale was small. Anybody that's within age, we were together. It was a small community.
Copy.
And with that being said, I wanted to pretty much understand who I was. So we were pretty much looking at all the guys that were hustling, zipping down the road with cars and on the block getting paper, and it was only 2 cats. Now, unfortunately, in my mindset, I'm like, okay, we had a couple of brothers that was jicking niggas, and you know how it is with a jick. You go jick somebody, you come out on $5, $10, and you about to do 7 to 15 for
That's
$5.
right. You better believe it.
You know what I mean? Because it don't matter what you got; it's the act that was committed.
That's a fact.
And I remember clearly telling myself, well, if I'm going to go in, I'm going to go in for getting paper.
Right.
And that decision was made when I graduated out of high school.
What year was that?
That was in '83.
Okay, copy.
In '83, I made I guess I would say the bonehead decision. Instead of pursuing football and going to college and getting the right mentorship, back into my parents not really being involved with my after school life because they had to work. My father was sick. The easiest choice was to go into what we saw.
Right.
And at that point, that was when that crucial decision was made. And that year, it was about me letting the whole world know who I was. And for us, the world was the borough, different borough, different, Springfield Gardens, Jamaica,
Got you.
South Jamaica, and, some of the names that you guys well known was out there.
Copy.
But my name wasn't out there. And my thing was, I wasn't a bully or nothing like that, but if you gave me a reason, that was my motivation. You know what I mean? So whenever we had a situation where there were brothers that was coming from Southside Jamaica hustling in the hood, and I used to visualize it and I used to see it, but it was none of my business because I wasn't involved in that at the
Copy.
time. And when the time came and I got involved, my goal was, now it's a different sheriff on the block. So one of the first things that happened when an escalation happened with one of those brothers, we moved on the brothers and we banned them from coming out in that side because back then South Side, with I don't want to name drop because I'm not trying to steal nobody's shine. If anybody do their homework after they see this podcast, they could figure it out.
Right.
Cats had niggas coming into Rosedale because Rosedale was a sweet spot.
Right.
We had a lot of white boys buying a lot of weed, and it was a lot of bread.
Right.
And now I'm coming up now. I'm no longer in high school.
Right,
I'm out of high school. Now I wanted in. And when I got in, you could rock, but once you show who you were now, I had to put you to task. And one of the first tasks was moving Southside niggas from Rosedale.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? And we did that. They know who they are, and they understood what went down. And if anybody retaliated, we went 5 times deep. What make me different is when I retaliate, we don't hit one spot. We hit 2, 3 spots that same night just to show niggas that you're dealing with a different type of person. I'm a linebacker. You know what I mean? We have 4 quarters.
We coming to bulldoze.
We keep playing.
Different
you know what
approach,
I mean?
yeah.
We keep playing. So I had that go-get-you mentality, but most of all was I wanted everyone to know who I was, who Supreme was.
But I want to add, a lot of the method and the technique and the approach that Preem just spoke about is historical. That's what gives him the credibility to be able to sit here and talk today about, the different things that he's doing, right? He's speaking about the young Supreme, right? Today, things are different. We're going to get on to the journey, that took him through his transition.
Facts.
But what we speaking about is the historical Supreme. You know what I'm saying? Context matters, right? So to understand that this is something that was happening in the 80s and maybe the early 90s, right? We understand that Supreme's a different individual today. So by no means are we glorifying any kind of violent behavior or any kind of oppression, right? But if we're going to tell a story, we're going to tell a story for real. So with that, I'll pass it back to you, Preem. Tell us about the first time you found yourself engaged in the criminal justice system.
Yeah, when you started getting yourself caught up and all that.
But the first time, a funny story one time, police pulled me over one time, and, he was like, yo, so what's going on, man? Why is, everybody afraid to snitch on you? Everybody we talk to don't want to snitch. What you doing out here?
What year was that around about?
That was probably in early 84.
Got you.
Early 84. And he was like, yeah, and I also heard they tried to take you out the other night, And my thing with police was always whenever they said something, I don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? I always tell people that was my favorite line. I don't know what you're talking about. And he said, no, you good. I just want to know there's a bank robbery in the neighborhood, and we think you know who it is. And if you can help us figure who he is, we'll tell narcotics to lay off you. And, coming with knowledge of self, what our lesson teaches us, you don't trust the devil. So I heard it, but it went out the other window. So,
don't trust the devil.
Don't trust the devil.
That's how Yap was.
You feel me? So, when I heard that, I was too gone to take that first hint. And fast forwarded to about another year and a half to 2 years, I was investigated. And eventually, and I kind of felt it because when you're going through the process, you feel it, but you're so in the moment,
right.
You're caught.
That's
so
a
you're
fact.
just going and you hoping now it ain't that. So fast forward into getting the money. That's why I say the story, those of y'all who know the story is deeper, but I like to say for all the movie producers out there, if you want the full story, there is another Rosedale God story. Drop right here. You understand? And Dog in the Yard first.
Facts.
Talk about it.
Because there's a lot of stuff behind everything that I'm saying. And long story short,
Talk to me.
they rolled on me.
Copy.
And, when they rolled on you, you kind of could bring the dot back like to a year later. Like,
Right.
oh, shit.
I remember when this happened, I
played
got pulled
me.
over here.
They went to
They
this,
said that.
got this
Right.
person
Yeah,
to
yeah,
me.
they was doing their
And,
homework. and you,
the initial guy did tell me leave him alone, but he still connected me with them. He left the car. Then they turned around and spit at me, and I got caught with the spit. And, they paid top dollars. So anytime somebody paid top dollars, you want to listen to them. You want to protect them. And that was the first day. Then I went, I got knocked, of course. And one of the interesting things, the first thing that they said to me when I got arrested was, yo, you ain't got to tell niggas that we got you for drugs. You could tell them, we got you for a gun charge. Just work with us. You know what I mean? And like I said again, by that time my history was inflated. And those who know. By that time I was all over Queens. You know what I mean? Leaving marks.
And what years was this?
That was like 84, 85.
yeah, but how old you was? But
Oh God, probably like 19, 18.
Okay.
Like in the 20s.
okay.
Because things was moving fast. By that time we was getting major dough. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
We was moving. Major movement was happening.
Copy.
And when you're in the lane of major movement, you also want to let people know that don't even think about coming for me.
Don't come, you talking about
I
the
mean?
stick-up boys?
If you come
right.
for me, I'm giving you the demo.
So let's roll it back, right? Because you said a minute ago, and I want you to kind of talk through it as much as you can. You said before the police had pulled you over, they had tried to hit you, not sometime before that. Can you give us a little bit of that?
Well,
Not the police, but I guess the street dudes tried to get with you.
There were ongoing beefs. You know what I mean? By that time, I was definitely on a massive level. So can nobody that's a name in Queens say they don't know me, period. And if they don't know me, that's the right thing to say because they don't want none of my wrath.
Coming from your era.
Wrath from my era.
Individuals in your generation.
Let's keep it clean. We're not trying to indulge. We're trying to explain the story of how it once was and how you came out of.
But also indirectly giving references, right? Because if he came from a certain era and it was other individuals in that era that was moving and shaking or
Yes,
whatever,
yes.
you go to the right era, you ask the right individuals, they're going to say what they're going to say.
And I want to say this too. It's important that I'm in this platform because I'm one to speak on for many others like myself that ain't being spoken about, that are 100 times more thorough than those that have been named.
Give me two. Give me two name drops we should think about that ain't been spoken about. Give me two name drops that we need to be getting on Dog in the Yard.
That they doing greatness now.
That they doing greatness right now.
I don't know about doing greatness, But I know, brothers that are quiet storm, and I'm going to ruffle the feather and go straight to the main source, Ronnie Bump.
I heard of Ronnie Bump.
All right? And, one of his comrades just passed away recently, Shorty Black.
Let him rest in peace. Rest in peace, Shorty
Let him
Black.
rest in peace.
Definitely.
And, so make a long story short, those brothers definitely held a weight that I could speak on.
Got you.
And at the end of the day, if you were to interview anybody that are close to them, they'll let you know that I hold my weight.
Copy.
And, there are individuals that I respect them because they did have a demo. So I'm not saying nobody don't deserve the demo that they're having.
Right, I got you.
But, there are demos that are left out.
Copy.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
and we want to hear those voices. One of the things
And-
about Dog in the Yard podcast is that we understand that there are individuals who don't have a voice. And that's one of the things that Pete say all the time is that our platform is to do what?
Absolutely. To give brothers back their voice. When you go to jail, you never have a voice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So this is that voice. This is what you get it all out right here.
So,
No controversy.
No controversial. So, again.
So you got knocked and all that, besides the beef that was going on.
When the problem that I had when I first got knocked was learning as a young guy, every process is new.
Gotcha.
Everything is a new lesson, even though if you hear it. And we really didn't even hear it because we weren't inside to watch TV. I didn't watch fucking, what's that movie, Miami Vice.
Right.
So all this shit that was happening to me, I couldn't even have a head up. The game that they were able to play to even swindling me in.
Right. The manipulation
So the
tactics
first fight
and the
that I
interrogation.
had was...
Wait. We got to roll you back. What's that question you always ask about that bus ride?
Yeah. So you got knocked. So that was your first time. You got knocked in the city.
No, I got knocked in Queens, but they took me to the city because the special prosecutor in Manhattan had my case.
So did you go to Rikers Island?
Yeah, of course. I mean, at first I went to Manhattan Tombs.
Okay.
Ultimately, when I couldn't, they didn't want me to get bailed out. They had me on some, you either cooperate with us or you're not coming out. That's the first stage of when they snatch you and they want you or they want to continue whatever they have. And the beautiful thing about me that makes it easy for me to talk about, I had no co-defendant.
Gotcha.
So there's nobody could say,
Nobody
whatever.
else told your story.
However,
Right. That's right.
the only thing that had to be done was me either being scared to go in and work with them or me just doing the fight that I could, because back then was also a good time if you had money.
Right.
You can get out of a lot of stuff. And I was one to believe in my money at that time more than working with the devil.
With the government.
Because
That's right.
there was so much stuff going on at that time, I couldn't trust nothing. You understand what I'm saying? I didn't know anything to trust anything. So the best thing to do is to keep myself as clean as possible.
Gotcha.
So I ended up staying in the island, went to HDM.
So you went to. So you say you was at where first?
The Tombs.
So
in
how was that experience? First time in the Tombs?
I mean, you know what? People laugh at me. My experience is different than most. Jail was a kind of like, for me, a relaxation, unfortunately.
Explain
Because
that.
That's
Explain
the first time in months that I felt at peace, where, I didn't have no bang bang or having to look behind my back or getting money and chilling out and then just looking at the time and now it's time to put the suit on, the boots,
Yeah, I got you.
and strap up and go because we were engaged. I was heavily engaged at the time because, my name, I wanted to let everybody know who I was.
Gotcha.
And it wasn't that I had beef with niggas. It was niggas acting up. I was cleaning shit up, basically.
It usually like that when you
know what I mean?
When you the man getting money and all that, you become the target.
Yeah, I was cleaning shit because I had a lot of little niggas in my crew that was little troublemakers.
I got you.
They saw things differently, you know what I mean? And I was kind of like a protector. My crew, I always was a protector, a giver, a nurturer, like.
That's a leader, man.
You know what I mean?
I'm saying?
That's basically who I was. If you violate my man, I don't care where I was at. Once he tell me the story, let's go.
So just understanding how turbulent and how chaotic the prison environment can be, right? What was a day for you in the prison environment? Although the turbulence didn't happen with you.
Well, which one? The Tombs, Rikers Island?
Rikers Island.
Let's talk about Rikers Island. You were going over that bridge.
Well, going over that bridge, again, everything was an experience for me. You know, having the lavish lifestyle, you know, just the big cars, Benzes, and, you know, the C28, being able to flip different cars, you know, kind of like how the big rap stars are doing it then.
Right.
Because there was an era back then when one crew had the power. They got all the money for different boroughs. You had spots in there. If you was a name, you could open up spot in other niggas' spot.
Gotcha.
Because you'd be like, yo, who? Oh, you down with that person? Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
So, you know, the money was coming up big and fast, and you could see it. So when I went inside, it was kind of like awakening, like how you could have everything 1 minute, and the next minute you like a dog and shit.
That's right.
You know, you've been told what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And for me, it was time for me to man up because I always had the opportunity to call in my lawyer and say, yeah, yo, I'm cracking. What's up?
Got you.
You know what I mean? But it was an opportunity to show who I was, what Supreme really was about. So I stayed in and fought till I did a few appeals. Then when my first lawyer, who was a little cocky Jewish dude, wasn't really doing nothing, and I decided to put out some big money for Ronald Rubenstein. Those who know who that name was back in the days. You know, I gave him a hefty down payment, and immediately they started talking a little English.
What's a hefty down payment for, you know, we're talking about 86, 87,
well,
right?
86,
What
I
was a
gave
hefty
him
down
20
payment?
to start.
Okay, 20,000 was big money. Big
back
time
in
money.
then, I gave him 20 to
It's still
start.
big money today. You could do big things with 20,000, but in 86, 20 racks.
85,
You know what I'm saying?
26.
85,
That was
86.
nice.
Gave
Yeah.
him 20. And but hold on, but for 1 month, I gave somebody 10 and fired him.
Gotcha.
Because I didn't like the vibe that, you know, he was getting. He was talking a cocky vibe, but he was being disrespected. Where with Rubenstein, the minute he walked in, you could see
Things
they
changed in the
trembled.
courtroom.
You know, and then I felt at home now, like, yeah, I felt back in charge.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So long story short, he worked out where I got bailed out.
Okay.
You know, family put the crib up, and I came back out. But
What kind of bail did you post?
400,000.
Copy.
You know what I mean? With the house, you know, the
Yep,
whole
without a doubt,
transaction and that.
Now,
nature.
these things are essential, right? I mean, just to talk about the way you was moving and shaking back then, you know what I'm saying? Because all of these are things that corroborate some of the story that you're telling, right? Because everybody didn't have a $400,000 house to put up for bail. Everybody didn't have 10 racks stored away this month and then put another 20 racks behind it the following month, right? There was a lot of money in the street at the time, but everybody just didn't have that, that
Everybody
kind of,
didn't
you know,
have it.
those kind of stacks. to
Until
kinda
the
just
day
throw up.
I got my mother living in a beautiful home, $1 million estate, because the one thing that she said when everybody told her, "You sure you want to do this? He might jump out and use your house." And I'll never forget it. My mother said, "I don't give a fuck about my house. I want my son home."
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Shit, that's your mother they talking to.
And that's my mother. And everybody
That's
who
Ma
know
Duke
me,
they talking
family
about.
know.
That's right.
Shout out to
Mama
Ma Duke.
That's
Mama
right.
Duke kept it 1,000.
That's what I'm talking
I don't give a
And I
fuck
want to
about
ask you. I
that.
want to ask you something. Prior to bail, what was the hardest part about the time you spent incarcerated prior to bail? What was the hardest part of your day?
The hardest part is having the world in your hand and just waking up to the four walls and on the child, get up for count. And, you know, you have to hustle and bustle for phone time. And other than that, you know, I had a unique situation. You know, I was relaxed.
But the thing about it is that when you think about that the removal from having options, right? That, you know, you're a guy, you financially all right? You got 3 hots and a cot, right? You got, like you said a minute ago, being taught like a dog, being told what to do, right? It's like, you know, on our platform, we're always looking to crush the school of prisons pipeline. We're looking to teach young individuals that's coming from, you know, underprivileged environments that there's greater opportunity out there for them. That as much as you may have today, tomorrow, every single bit of it can be taken away from you. And you listening to an individual that experienced it. You know what I'm saying?
You know, jail time. You know, again, I'm gonna put a small twist on it. Jail sometimes can be a blessing for a lot of knuckleheads and a lot of people, because I happen to think I'm alive today because of my incarceration. You know what I mean? And so, although we don't want people to go to jail, but there's certain people that are so far left, they need time out to reflect.
And I agree.
Yeah, because they're super lost.
You know, they're super lost.
Yeah, I get
and
it.
they need that time
They need that.
to wake up, that
Yeah, I
time
get
to
you.
understand what you're doing.
But let me ask you a question. And I know you're going to see exactly where I'm going. You're going to see it once I say it. If we can catch those individuals who are so far to the left right now and get them to take a willing time out, a voluntary time out, to hang out with you for a day and watch your life today, or hang out with Pete for a day and watch his life for the day, we get a chance to prevent them from having to experience incarceration.
Most definitely.
Right? You know what I'm saying? So the timeout, I'm in total agreement with it, but we want to give them the timeout in a different way.
Most definitely, because as the story progressed today, that's where we will definitely head.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give you the moment and the mindset early on.
Absolutely.
You
Without
know,
a doubt.
the lost
Yep.
person.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's
I was
becoming,
him.
that's about
I was
that's
him.
about to wake
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
I mean, today in what he's saying, we have intervention, prevention, which is
right.
what he's saying, giving them different tools, different opportunity,
That's right.
which is what Guns Down, Life Up is all about.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Giving the kids time to reflect, giving them conflict mediation.
That's right.
Letting them hear from people like myself
Yeah.
and
That's right.
other people.
That's right.
And tell them some horror stories.
You better believe
They're
it.
horror stories.
Yeah.
You know, I'm more or less, you know, speaking about my way of feeling at the moment. Because my story was I was a little bit too advanced.
Got you.
I got too far ahead. So I needed that slowdown.
Got you.
You know what I mean? But there are the downside. You're not there to protect your family. You know what I mean? You about to lose everything because I was facing life.
Got you.
And you didn't get a chance to see nothing. And we all know how dangerous jail is.
Hell yeah.
Let's not forget that jail is a dangerous place. You know, if you don't know how to stand up, you're gonna somebody gonna sit you down.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? But, you know, I like to say I'm a unique story, which is why, you know, I like to come and also tell my story because I want people to know also how I've overcame.
Got you.
You know, the stability, the strength, the power, the ambition that you also need to overcome.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So I wanted to make sure that people who following me understood how I became this person that I am. So it was always in me, but like he said, I had to channel that.
That's right.
I had to find out the reasons. I had to start doing math.
That's right.
You know what I mean? I give you a better example. You have people who are doing life with $20 million in the stash at home.
That's right.
What does that matter? And we in there getting $5 a day, $5 a week,
If that.
you know, a month.
Yeah.
So when you look at a normal person working a normal life, getting the, you know, benefits and all of the above, able to be with their mom, their family, their kids, and protect their family, they're better off than us speeding and getting that rush money.
You better believe it.
You know what I mean? So yeah, as we move forward, however, you know, they lead, we're gonna get into all of that. By no way am I trying to promote anything, but if you want to know how I dealt with it, you know, and those who really know me, you know, jail was a major timeout for me.
So you came out on bail. How long you was out? Did you go back in?
Yeah, I went out for about, let me see, I think, don't quote me, but I think I might have came out around October.
No, but how long? For how long?
No, I'm going to count
Okay.
it. No, I came out in October, so November, December, January, February was my next court date, and they put the full squeeze on me. And, you know, they came into my attorney, they said, you know, we don't need him out here because we feel like, you know, he's going to impede on our investigation. So it's either he's with us or we don't want him out here. And my attorney looked at me and said, what do you want to do? And he said, I'll give you 5 minutes to think about it, which I didn't need, but I still took the 5 minutes. And he came back, and I told him, listen, put in for my 4 years, and I'm copping out next week. And that's when they took me back in.
Okay, gotcha.
So I did about 3 months.
Okay.
3 months out from the island. So, see, usually with the cops, when they arrest you, they know what they need you for. Because they know the streets very well. There were things that I learned which changed my whole mindset about the street. Because when they were talking to me, they knew more than I did. And I thought I knew a lot. They were naming shit that I didn't even know. You understand what I'm saying? So, and when I saw the process, I knew I couldn't be who I was and be part of the process. Because a nigga don't need to see your rap sheet to know what you did or what you're doing. You know what I mean? You know the system. So when I really looked at everything, you know, my whole thing was, did I want to continue the path that I was on?
Got you.
You know what I mean? That I wanted to continue to be the boogeyman. That I want to continue to go until it was my turn. And my turn would have been either death or 100 years.
Copy.
So to me, I still didn't think that my time was a blessing. I thought I was unlucky and unfortunate because I just started and my run is about to be over. But because of what I was involved with and engaged with, and you and I had a conversation earlier, and you know it, I felt it was the best thing for me to do is to end it. Because if I didn't end it, it was going to end very badly.
Got you.
So what happened with the situation, the case? You copped out? Or you
Yeah, I copped out.
You took 4 years?
Took 4 to life.
Okay, 4 to life. So you went up top.
I went up top.
You was downstate?
Downstate.
Give us a little experience about downstate. How was that for you?
You know, downstate, you know, it was new experience, you know, getting frisk shirts, and that's the thing. You get the beige at the time. They give you the beige suit. You might stay in there for a day or two. I don't remember how much it was until they ship you upstate.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
You know, that's how they did it when I came up. And whatever the period of time that was, they shot me up to Green.
Okay.
Now, Green was a hell of an experience because when I walked in there, I was in dismay because I was like, this is jail? You know, and you know, me knowing who I was, I thought it was a joke. Because
So Green is a medium correctional facility
Right.
that has it doesn't have cells. It has cubicles. So when you go inside of the unit, you're not locked in a cell. You can kind of come in and out. There's a communal bathroom where there's about 5 or 6 stalls where you can sit down, and about 3 or 4 stalls where you stand up and use the bathroom, and then maybe about 10 or 15 sinks. So for Supreme, you're thinking prison, but then you go to a camp. So
Yeah,
now you're sitting here trying to figure this thing out. Like, why does this make sense?
this shit, like, you know, so I had my man Frenchie, bless his soul, he passed away recently. You know, he was kind of like my first mentor because he'd been in and out of prison. So he grabbed me and he saw that I was a little loose, like, you know, just, you know, I was making phone calls. I had people swinging. They were showing me how to
make moves and
you know,
shit.
things was coming in. You know, y'all put me, I'm in a camp. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm making calls. I got shit moving in New York, you know, while I'm inside, and this is where I'm at. You know, this is jail. So long story short, we had this shit blazing. And unfortunately, my carelessness got me caught.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So you went from the street committing crimes
Yeah.
to now committing more crimes while you were doing prison
Prison.
for the crimes you committed in the street.
In the streets.
And then you got lined up again.
I got lined up again. You know, it was a situation where I was on my way to, I had something on me, and I was on my way to, it was a visiting call. And I wasn't thinking nothing. I was halfway to the visit when it dawned on me that I'm dirty. And I turned around and went back, and I got to the door and did the bonehead shit. I bent down to take it out my pocket and put it in my
It was drugs?
to
right.
put it in my socks, and I didn't even have to do anything. And I stood up, and police was out at the door looking at me, and my mouth opened up wide at him, so he knew he had something, but the door was between us. So at that time, I didn't know what to do at the time because I was stung because I knew I was dead busted.
Right.
And I just took off.
You started running.
Yeah, and then he came
So
out.
you in jail running from the police.
He came after me, and I bent down and went in my pocket and tore shit up, you know, just threw it up in the air. And they jumped on by, you know, that slowed me up. So by then he jumped on my back, and they took me to the box. You know how that go. And they took my urine, and the urine, of course, came dirty. And that was the beginning of my reform.
Got you.
You know what I mean? And
So that was your beacon moment of changing,
my
of
beacon
turning in
moment.
another direction.
Right, because
Gotcha.
I got shipped to Attica now. Now I got
Now you
where
in
I belong.
prison.
Now I went where I belong.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that at the time that I knew the difference, but now I'm seeing the difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Now you in prison.
Now I'm in prison. You know what I mean? So you know how Attica was.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, Attica, you know, I mean, I survived it either or, but now you're dealing with people who got life, people who was bidden before you were born. I met guys that was already bidden before I was born.
Gotcha.
So that you did your time there in Attica and
Well, you know, I did the majority of it. I think I did about 2. Because, you know, one thing about jail, based on your time, they don't keep you long. They keep you moving.
okay. So
You
you
know
went
what I
back to a medium.
Yeah, I went back to Oneida.
Okay.
Oneida was a little bit harsher than a medium, but similar.
So what year was this now that you transitioned from the maximum to the medium?
I think it was about 88,
Okay, cool.
88. And then right before then, did a few more months there. Then I got shipped to what they call like the release.
Okay.
A little less than the medium, it was a mid-orange.
Okay, got you.
Okay, then you came home.
Then I came home.
Okay, so what year you came home?
89, November 2nd, 1989.
But I have one more question for you. Was that the only bid you did?
That was the only bid I did.
Okay, good. So now you're back in the street.
Now-
so it's only
now-
one
Yeah,
bid.
'cause that's what I was gonna get at.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I was
yeah.
about to say. So I'm thinking it might have been another one.
No, that's what I
So
was
that's the
thinking,
only
yeah.
bid you did.
That's the only bid I
So
did.
during your time incarcerated at Attica, throughout your time, what one of the worst things you see, that you it never left your mind, from prison, your experience in
I
prison?
mean, I attracted heavy hitters in there.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, whatever the cats heard about me, I seem to attract real niggas, and heavy hitters. And I remember meeting this Spanish dude, and he was next to me, and he took a liking to me. He had 40 years. And he would hit me and yo, they see such and such and such. I'm going to hit him up. And sure enough, time come out, he go and he do what he say he going to do. And he was so good at it that he literally got away with a couple of moves.
Couple of stabbings.
Right. And I'm like, God damn, this is crazy.
He was busting moves. Huh?
He was busting moves.
Right.
Incredible.
And another one was a guy, he had, I forgot how much he had, but I'm sitting myself chilling. I heard a nigga crying, like, sniffling and all that shit. And I'm like, yo, what's up? And he was like, yo, man, every time I think about this time, man. And, he start crying.
Right.
So, there was a lot of scenarios where young men, and I tell young men, you go out there and you get drunk, or you get hot-headed and you shoot, or you sell that, whatever, and it only take a day or maybe a few days to get your common sense.
Right.
Now you're looking at 25 years for the rest of your life. And I saw a lot of cats crying and a lot of cats not able to handle it, you know what I mean, and stuff of that nature. So all of that gave me a chance to reflect. And once you see what's there for you, you don't want that. So when I came home, I already knew my game plan. Plus, I vowed that I wasn't going to rule with the fist, with the iron fist. I was going to try unless somebody forced my hands.
Right.
So that was the first thing that I said to myself because I didn't want to be the dude doing 40 years or life.
Got you.
Or any time in prison.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Facts.
So it showed me enough to know that ain't what I want.
Got you.
Enough to spook you to say, fuck that.
You could use the word spook, intelligent,
Yeah,
or the
I mean-
beginning of your brains lining up.
Yeah, the transition, that transition
To be a
moment, right?
sensible person. The minute I started to look at my strength, I looked at my capabilities. I looked at the demo that I laid in New York back then, and I said to myself, with that demo, I don't have to worry about nothing in life. I don't have to worry about nobody because we all know I don't care who you are in this world. Everybody do their motherfucking homework before they strike. So a lot of niggas want to know why I travel dolo, why I don't be afraid in a lot of places, because real niggas know real thing. I know what it take to spark me. I know what I do before I make a move. So I know as I'm moving and the nigga identify me for whatever you want to do, once he find out who I am, I ain't got to worry about
That's
nothing.
right.
And I'm saying it straight to everybody who watching the podcast. As a realist,
I always say, and I don't even want to add to that. I always say, like, when you that type of person that you are real, you know who you are, you know what I'm saying, and what you have done, you can walk anywhere, man. And like I find myself in L.A. in the hood, you know what I'm saying, with all my credentials on, and I'm in the
I've
Bronx.
done that as well.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like I can relate to that. You know what I'm saying?
I've done that as well.
for
And-
sure.
And the moral to what I'm saying is that I started to understand that, wow, if I could replace the merchant with something, then I got something going on.
Got you.
Because the most important thing that I always wanted in life, because, let's not forget, back in the days when I grew up, stick-up was major. So you could go get money, but the stick-up is right behind you. So my goal was to make sure the stick-up niggas know to never come from me.
Got you.
You know what I mean? So whatever person gave me a platform to display that energy, I used it. But I was still sending a message to others who was watching, who was listening, who wanted to see me. Because everybody who know me, I've always had jewels on. I've always had Rolex, big cars. I've always, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
I went from that time and went and opened up hell of businesses in Brooklyn.
Music industry, all kind of stuff, right?
Music industry, travel in every hood. I've sent cats in every hood where I just send them with my name. Just let them know you with Preem from Rosedale. Because there was that always controversy, which Preem.
Right.
Can't take away from him. His name is statued, you know what I mean? There's history between me and his mob and his crew. But it was always respect whenever I saw him.
Got you.
There was one time we crossed paths in the bullpen. Maybe I was going to court, he was going to court. And somebody came to me and asked me if I knew him. And they said, yeah, he was trying to find out if somebody could do something to you. Never was able to validate it, but that did came across me.
Got you.
You know what I mean? But it never happened. That's the only negative thing. But when we were in the street and we saw each other, we made eye contact, there was mutual respect.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Like it should.
That's right.
Like it should.
That's right.
But we did have, there was people that were part of his team or worked for him or used his name that we had to chase.
It's always
out of
like that.
Rosedale or had to lay demo out. So,
I like that when he said lay demo out.
He had to, listen, there's, we ain't gonna get to that. Like I said, movie producers, there's a story out in Queens that's not told. Many stories. If y'all want another movie, get at me. But I'm not gonna sit here and put everything out. But y'all can do your homework. Those the OGs. I'm not talking to youngins, but I'm just giving the brothers my story because they got a major platform. I respect it, and you get to tell your story.
Definitely.
And like my man told me, once you died, niggas ain't talking while I'm alive. So I gave y'all niggas the opportunity to talk about me. Y'all chose not to, respectfully so. Now I'm gonna tell part of my own story.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Appreciate
And it
you.
is what
Appreciate
it
you for
is.
that, right? That's right.
So you came home what year?
I came home in November 2nd, 1989.
And you never looked back.
Never looked back.
Never no more prison.
No more prison.
So-
I had little, run-ins, but
But you ain't do no more prison bids.
nah, no more bids.
So,
Thank God.
so how has it been since you've been home and what you been doing now? What's up with Supreme now? We see that you
Now
I love
or
your
what
jacket.
I went through
That
after
jacket is
that?
fire. You know what I'm saying? Just let you know.
What I did first thing I did when I came home is my man Frenchie got me involved in construction.
Okay.
Back then it was a collision.
Yeah, I remember the
I always like to
coalitions, that's
move
right.
with a force. I always like to help people. So I kind of like, all the brothers that used to run with me, I got them into construction. Boldy and Kev. Kev was my man. He just came home from something and we linked up to my man Frenchie and he put me on. And one thing construction did for me, I have a mind that don't stop spinning. So one of the things that helped me was to go and work and be exhausted. So when I go home, I could knock out and wake up in the morning.
Right.
That'll go back to work. So I kind of, construction gave me that. But within a year or two, I kind of started getting that urge to be who I was again.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? And y'all know, once you touch that, you're tainted by it. I always used to
take
wonder,
control of you.
how do you go from making over a half to a mil to now trying to make 20, 30,000, 40,000 a year? Even though I was willing to meet that sacrifice to stay out of jail, but it always bothered me that I had to reduce my ambition to that. And having knowledge of self, we always look at the devil's deed. So this is what the devil does. He allow you to play, then he lock you up, and then he dead you from being able to come up. But I refuse to let that be a hindrance.
Well, I guess you could see it. I see it as a temporary sacrifice. You knew what you needed to do to stabilize yourself back in society, but who you were was going to come to the light.
You don't know that when you're young.
Right.
It's
You'll know
nice.
that
It's nice how you're saying it because you know it now.
Right.
But when you that dude and you have options, and most people don't have the strength. Some people think I talk that wildness. I'm not talking wildness because I want to be known for wildness, but sometimes it took that wildness strength to narrow me down.
I got you.
You know what I mean? When I found myself in corners it was shit that I went through that straightened me up. So I feel sorry for niggas who ain't been through nothing. This is why you got a lot of drug heads, or you got niggas who can't, they're not stable.
That's
Because they didn't go through. So my mishaps sometimes was my biggest strength. You know, but I can't say it worked for everyone. But, you know, I went through that. And then the next thing is getting my weight up. And I came home because, you know, I had something stashed. You know, I had a Benz, I had some whips. So I didn't come.
You didn't come home broke.
I didn't come home broke.
Right.
I came home actually still looking better than those who I left in New York. So I always wondered sometimes, y'all niggas should have been and left me out here. You understand what I'm saying? So, you know, that was neither here to say. But the first thing that I was able to do was figure out where I was going to lay my next progression demo. And being that my negative demo was laid in Queens, I didn't want to lay no positive demo in Queens and then there was a hater looking to creep at you. You know what I mean? I know Queens very well. Queens is a dangerous place because I was part of it. You know, we would creep up on you. You know, we're going to get you. You know, whatever we got, you know, you could be an old lady coming at you and it's a full-grown man behind those suits. So that's one thing I knew, not to sleep on Queens.
Gotcha.
But Brooklyn, which we know was the harshest place, everybody afraid of Brooklyn, which I didn't know why, but I fell in love with Brooklyn in the mind at first because the difference between Queens and Brooklyn, you're going to see a Brooklyn nigga coming. He going to swing, he going to make noise, he going to tell everybody what he going to do. So you have time to square up or time to man up or time to protect yourself. And I ended up being right because I had to deal with all of that. You know what I mean? But the moral to the story, I opened up a barbershop on Fulton between Howard and Ralph.
Gotcha.
Then I opened up another one on Herkimer and Fulton. Then I opened up a beeper shop on Herkimer between Howard. Then I opened up a strip club in Nostrand.
Gotcha.
And I
You started working.
I reduplicated all of that in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Now, Brooklyn niggas, you know, some of them welcomed me, and some of them didn't like that the Queens niggas out here getting all this money because I had the Benz. Once I started flashing again legitimately, I never changed from who I was. Because one thing I used to always tell my mom would say, yo, stop wearing jewelry. I said, Mom, I don't wear too much jewelry, but I must have jewelry on for two reasons. One, is going to keep me alert, and two, is going to let niggas know I'm not scared. You know what I mean? So that was
That was your rationale.
You know,
right.
but if you put too much, then you're going to force a nigga to keep sleeping till they get you.
Okay.
And being on all side of the coin, I was always able to see things coming. You know what I mean? Because I dealt with the stick up. You know, we didn't talk about my righteous days. You know, Supreme, the great God. You know, we deal with everybody that do everything.
That's right.
So
the social acumen was
part
up.
of being real is knowing a little bit of how everybody moves, so you can navigate around everybody.
Copy.
You understand what I'm saying? And in Brooklyn, I was around a lot of everybody in Brooklyn. I had a beeper company, you know, which I opened up several beeper shops. So I had everybody on speed dial. You know, police used to subpoena me, and I'd hit niggas up, yo, let that go. They want your information. So, you know, I met a lot of people in BK. I felt comfortable in BK. You know, we manned up over there. So I spent about 15 years in BK.
Nice.
That's when I made my money, and then I turned around and started investing in Queens, which is where I originally was from. By that, I knew where all the ops were. I knew where the enemies were. And I knew who grew up, and niggas kind of knew I'd be flying through, and everybody was on some respectable grown man. Cause, at that time, I wasn't trying to become who I used to be. I wasn't trying to I was just protecting myself and moving, and I started to help the kids. Help the youth. We did the FICO recording studio, which is where, you know, again, 134 All-Star. One of the first groups that I signed was a group called Style Masters, then Rags to Riches, which had Marvelous, a.k.a. Tony Yayo today.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
So Tony Yayo was one of your initial artists?
Yes, Tony Yayo was one of my artists, and when we first heard Tony Yayo back then, you know, music wasn't evolved. So he had a stern, streaky voice, and he was able to flow, and I personally liked him. I thought he was dope, and we did some nice songs. Did a CD with him. We did albums with him. It was real.
And what was his name back then?
Marvelous.
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 Okay, all right.
You know what I
Okay,
mean?
we get this
Shout out to
extra.
Tony Yayo.
Shout out to Tony Yayo.
Yeah. Shout out to Yayo.
G-Unit and all of that.
I
right
want
there.
him to know, it's all gravy. Back then I was making enough money not to worry about his jump to 50. Because at the end of the day, as I knew now, which I didn't know then, he wouldn't have went nowhere with us because I didn't really know what I was doing.
Gotcha.
And being that, my thing was to elevate and help kids, when that happened to 50 and whatever they did, they decided to come up with G-Unit, he violated the contract. There are people who thought that I should stand for that, but I stand 10 toes off the street. I didn't want to be known for suing nobody or stopping a man from coming up. Okay. What's the purpose of trying to get somebody signed, and then the minute they get signed to something that's doing well, you want to hate?
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? I couldn't affiliate myself. So when I say being real, every move you make in life, whether it be simple or street, has to have a notion of realness.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Authenticity.
So, no, you don't owe me nothing, Yayo. I mean, it would be nice if you'd have told your story, because it did happen. That's the only thing you owed me. You didn't have to say it, which you didn't say it, but now I'm saying it. You know what I mean? If you got a problem with that, you can reach out directly to me, or you can reach out to them. We can have a sit down, but I know you don't need it. I don't need it as well. But, I just wanted to make sure people knew that, because it was real.
For the most part, though, it's all love to y'all. It's all love, right?
It's part of my story.
That's all it is, man.
And it's so love.
No disrespect, none like that.
And it's so
we
love.
fuck with Tony Yayo. He's family.
I actually respect him because he's a Haitian comrade.
That's
I'm
right.
a Haitian man.
That's right.
And at the end of
Go
the day,
Boye.
I respect 50 gangster. He remind me of my gangster because he's relentless.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
And, we were relentless. And he another one that came through was dealing with some of my producers. I wish my producers would have listened to me and did more tracks with him instead of just having them in our studio and dropping verses and stuff of that nature. But, there was a scenario where some of the guys, I used to tell them, don't bring nobody to me that's a hothead, because you don't want two hothead to clash. And one of the things when 50 used to come around, they used to say, yeah, Boo-Boo, he's a little troublemaker. I don't think you should fuck with him, So niggas threw the barrier between me and 50 at an early age. And me protecting, not having to go and deal with no young nonsense.
Yeah. You didn't want to deal with the bullshit.
I kind of let them be in the studio. Sometimes I'd be upstairs and I wouldn't come down and mingle, but he too know what time it is. And, I love the demo that they put in. I love the loyalty that Yayo is able to display, because people should learn. If they learn nothing from Yayo, they should learn loyalty.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And at the end of the day, we all know what 50 doing. I don't want to keep throwing his name up like I'm trying to get prop or nothing of that nature. But appreciate you. I know you wore my product, #1 draft pick. I know you don't do nothing without knowing what you're doing. Respect. And at the end of the day, it's a story that is out there, and there's more of it.
That's right.
You know what I mean? There's more of it to come. We're not trying to down nobody.
Yeah, of course.
But we laid a demo for Cat to be able to figure out who's who. And that demo was my money.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? Money that I earned from Brooklyn, no record label money. This is my earning that I put the studio to $250,000 where niggas could come with Pro Tool in the hood. There was no Pro Tool in the hood. Anybody could be a greatest DJ now with my producers, because we was giving them Pro Tools that you had to pay $200 an hour in Manhattan. Niggas ain't had that kind of money.
They didn't have that. They didn't
They
have
that kind of money.
Right.
They didn't have that.
You understand what I'm saying?
For
So
Pro Tools,
everybody and their mama was coming to my first choice studio. The basement in Queens. Y'all know what it is.
So talk to me. So now, we know the history of first choice. Now we got #1 draft pick.
Yeah, let's get to
we
that.
got a different. Tell
Let's
us
get
what
to
you're
that.
doing today as we begin to wrap up. Just tell us what you're doing today, different projects you got going on. Talk to us, baby.
Well, what I'm doing today is what, I find my last move. After learning about business, the clothing business, having had multiple brands that has hit multiple millions, and watching all the companies that I looked up to get bought out and closed out, and Nike starting not too far from when I started, and look how far they are. Under Armour starting in the middle of my career, look where they are. I felt like it would only be fitting if I attacked the sports industry. And first thing I had to do was find a name that would be long-lasting and find a name that I could incorporate, that I could trademark, have ownership to it, and now began the process that I'm great at is branding. You know what I mean? Making it turn into a brand and owning the rights to it and ownership to it so that way it could stay alive forever. And that is #1 draft pick.
#1 draft pick in the
right
building.
here. And we have the youth ambassadors. We help the kids. And with that being said, Jimbo and I teamed up with Guns Down, Life Up. Jimbo always was part of our movement because Jimbo was out in the streets doing his thing with the
That's
movement.
right. That's right.
And he always had his empire. He always moving, always had his crew. So we always had a good relationship where, you know, we sponsored one another.
Nice.
You know what I
nice,
mean?
Nice.
I kept him around. He kept me around. Or we made moves for
That's
one
how
another.
you supposed to do
This is
it.
an example of community
You know what I mean?
organizing, community building.
And now he came to me with Guns Down, Life Up. He said, you know, let me put you on to something because the kids need you. The kids need, because he knew my demo.
Definitely.
He said the kids need your support because he watched
The
me.
voice is important.
He watched me help a lot of cats come up and just did it on his strength. Now he had sponsors. He had people that wanted to have the right mentor,
Right.
crisis management,
That's right.
credible messengers.
That's right.
Meaning people who've been there, done that, who can talk to the youth,
That's right.
let them know where they're going to go, look in the youth eyes, and most of all, the youth can look you back in your eyes and believe in what you're saying.
Got you.
Because the kids are smart. Back in my days, an OG could come at me, I could read you a mile away. You understand what I'm
That's
saying?
right.
So these kids don't need the fake, they need real
Right.
in front of them. So big up to Jimbo. Like I said, he always was about bringing the best. He was never afraid to lock in as long as it was to bring awareness to the youth, to the kids. Shout out to New York City Health Hospital, which I'm a vendor to. And you have Christina and Shareem, who's doing a great job, the CEO of the Health and Hospital Lincoln. And they
Shout out to
support
Lincoln.
us
Shout out
major.
to Lincoln.
So I got to the whole
You know,
team.
they got Jimbo's back. Jimbo don't breathe without mentioning
That's right.
you know, the hospital
right.
and Guns Down.
But we need to, I think it's important that you mention these elements, right? Because we're always talking about, you know, community reform, prison reform, community organizing, community building, right? And what you've just exemplified, right, is community organizing and community building in action, right? But with that being said, like would you like to like just give a direct shout out to, and what is the message you would like to give the individuals that's in this industry trying to make their way up?
You know, there's a couple of shout outs. You know, first of all, shout out to all the CMS guys that are out there supporting and doing a great job. And no one needs to tell you because we just got the key in New York from Mayor Adam, and I believe A.T. Mitchell and Lance Furtado. You know, they pioneered that to make sure I was able to be part of that. So that seemed to be major.
Congratulations.
You know, however, I think, you know, more people need to do more for one another. I think the system need to come together a little bit more. There's still some, you know, hatreds where everyone is not cohesive, you know, that can make moves. And I know they're fighting to do it
Right.
because I'm watching it, I'm part of it. And just open the door for more, you know what I mean? Allow more heads to come in that can offer more to people.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Or maybe business acumen. Like, you know, I can't be here all day to talk about everything I've accomplished, and not to mention just the accomplishment, but understand the pressure that comes with doing it. You know what I mean? It's easy to tell somebody to go to work, go do this, go do that, but there's pressure.
Hell yeah.
You know, there's pressure behind this. And so the whole mental mindset needs to prepare. And that's where, again, I'll bring up Jimbo, because Jimbo and I are good at that type of stuff. He and I will stay in the background, will strategize on what to do. If there's a kid that's troubled, we have special individuals that he is allocated through himself or myself that we will directly to go to that kid and work with that kid.
Okay.
Because you know you could relate to kids
Yes.
because you know where they are.
Of course.
And
That's right.
you know at what point to help them do the 1-2 steps. And if you don't carry a kid's hands, he's not gonna make it. You know what I mean? And you don't know how far you gotta hold him. And the system is a great system. The CMS system, I must give great recommendation to that. I read it, I took the training, and I'm happy about it. I just wish I knew it longer than that because I could have saved myself some bread. Because I did spend a lot of money helping kids on my own. And that was one of the stories that I wanted to be told. And at the end of the day, I want to continue to work the initiative. I want to continue to, like you said, intervention. Interrupt them before they go to prison.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And give them the fundamental resources so they don't have to go to prison. Give them opportunity to earn and make money.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And then go out to the community and find those kids. Let them know you ain't got to hide. You know what I mean? And you could come out, and that's why I respect Jimbo. Because, you know, sometimes when you've been there, done that, you don't want to come out. I was in my element. I'm chilling. I don't need nothing. I don't need to be involved. He came and got me. Nah, you need to come out.
That's a fact.
You need to come out. You need to get your story out. You need to work with people. You know, he's been working with me.
That's right.
He's been mentoring me to get more.
That's what it's
open
about. That's what it's about, though.
And more stuff of that nature.
Like you should. That's what.
Even if even if we're reformed, we still got our own personal trauma.
Absolutely.
You know that carries over.
Sometimes you need that little push from your brother, man.
You need that little
to tell you, yo,
push.
come on, man, jump on board on this. Let's get on this. Let's work this together. You know.
And let me give another shout out to my man Ray too. You know, with #1 draft pick, a brother that's been with me from day one. He watched me develop this, and part of this brand came about because he asked me, "How do I start a brand?" And when he said that to me, you know, he was already working with us and he was really doing well. And I saw something in him. And I said, you know what? This might be my opportunity to reshape something and create something bigger and more positive. And I said, at the same time, I'll walk him through how to create a brand. And we got together, and that's what we did. And he's still by my side. And he's still learning. And without him, I probably wouldn't even have been able to strategize this because it's hard doing certain things by yourself.
Without a doubt.
You know, you need
your support
somebody
system, man.
No man is an island. You understand what I'm saying? So when you got good help with you, you got individuals that's, you know, here's an example. One example is that everybody's not going to make it to the upper rooms. Shout out to Guns Down Life Up, my man Jimbo, because he made it to the upper room. And he's turning around and he got the door open. He's putting the ladder down for other individuals to come up. He's pulling other individuals up. So a dude like Jimbo, Guns Down Life Up, you know what I'm saying? He's a game changer. He's one of ours. As Preem just said, opened the door for him, called him, got him out of the shadows, because Preem already was doing his thing, but he pulled him out of the shadows. Come on. The youngest need to hear you. Jimbo hollered at me. Yo, we need to hear you. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Jimbo, Guns Down Life Up. If it wasn't for Jimbo, you know what I'm saying?
What's up
Preem
with
would
that?
have still been in the shadows.
I want to talk about that jacket you got on, man. That's a nice jacket, man.
#1 draft pick, baby.
Hey, listen, I started to call
You
you
ain't bring that
guys.
shit up here.
I started to call y'all to find for sizes, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to stroke too hard. You know what I'm saying? I said, let me
That's a
feel the
dope
vibe.
jacket.
Let me make sure you know my story is enough for them. Let me make sure you know
we love it,
you know
man.
we're together.
Appreciate you,
That's
man.
right.
We're on the same page, and then I'm gonna make sure you guys definitely blessed so y'all can wear it on the next show.
No, I'm
And
saying,
give me some
facts.
shout out.
Organic energy. Yo, we
I want to
appreciate
ask you
man.
one last question. How you feel about prison reform?
Well, I love prison reform. I mean, I
Niggas
wouldn't
need
be
it?
I wouldn't be part of this if I didn't respect it. You know, I was part of prison reform without being in prison reform. The only difference is I didn't go to the jail, but I was doing intervention, I was doing prevention, and like I said again, when Jimbo got me to see the light, you know, we want to go more deep into it.
Right.
We're gonna go into the prison, which is that what you're getting at?
Well, we just getting as
Or
far
just on the overall?
on the overall.
Okay, yeah, no, that's 100 because I always felt like, let me tell this story because this is important. And I tell people, unless you've been in prison, you won't know this. Some of the smartest people are in prison. And I don't want to say the whole world is dumb, but some of the dumbest motherfuckers are the ones that are out here that are scared to go to prison because they're scared to bust a grape. They're scared to make moves, which is good. I'm not down in that. But the moral is don't down the nigga because he been in prison. He made a mistake. He hopped too fast. And the system is set up to see who the leaders are. Because they know the leaders are going to be defiant. They know the leaders are going to take a hop. They know the leaders ain't going to settle for just anything. And then once they see that, and unfortunately, for those that were getting pinched and doing football numbers and basketball numbers, it's a real fucked up situation. But I don't want to get too deep into the politics because things are changing. You know, they're trying to reform the same system that they've broken. They're giving us back a platform to show our dominance.
Facts.
Where we could speak and make a change. Because
right.
what they're witnessing in crimes going down is because back in my time, I'm going to tell you straight up, if I made a call out and tell niggas no shooting, there was no shooting. Because it was a level of respect. And those who are in the street know what that's about. There's always going to be the dummies. We can't stop the dummies, but we could stop the wannabes. We could stop the niggas that are being bullied or pressured or even scared. Because there's multiple stories I could tell you how 90% of killing is made. It ain't even because they want to kill. Niggas are scared. And they don't know what to do, and they're carrying. And you know, the gun is talking for them. You know what I mean? But that's a whole other story. You know what I mean?
Real shit, though. That's real shit.
You know.
That was some real shit you said. They need to hear that. You know what I'm
So,
saying?
you know, I got a lot to give, a lot to offer. Like
Man,
I said,
Supreme, we appreciate you, man.
Jimbo wanted me to
You
figure. I said, you know, I'm gonna freestyle this.
Nah, you did great,
You know what I
man.
mean?
We want you. This is all organic, man. You know what I'm saying? This is not no. We don't have to make nothing up right here. We want the whole Supreme. We want to know. We want the world to hear your story. We want that. That's what this platform is made for you guys to come up here and break your story down. So hopefully 1 or 2 or 3 guys out there, young brothers out there in the street that's lost, you know what I'm saying, that is a leader that had the same energy you had, because see your story and be like, wow.
Let me before I go, because I didn't know how the system was gonna go. Let me give a shout out to some of my football alumni who know what it is. My man Love, Forever, Life, Ev, Jamel. You know, again, shout out Jimbo, because Jimbo was in different stage of my career, my life. And shout out to the whole 134 All-Stars. And once again, shout out to Marv and 50 for what they've done, Skama, Rosedale, and everybody that came through #1 draft pick. Shout out to First Choice supporters or the sales rep that made millions, rocking with me. Shout out to Tough City. Shout out to Charlie, who's doing Street is Watching. He worked with me for 25 years, and right now he got a business doing between 5 and 10 million. I took him out of college and told him, come to me when you graduate. He invited me to his graduation many years ago, and today he got a $10 million business. You know what I mean? That he learned all he had to learn, and he showed his skills by just keeping it going. And that was the business I came from, and I flipped it over to this. And I want to shout out to my family, shout out to Dogs in the Yard.
Early.
Like I said, they got me here.
Early.
I'm going to look at y'all shit some more, see how y'all got me here, man.
Early. You looking
y'all
great,
did your
man.
thing, man.
Like you
y'all
should.
got me here, and I
Appreciate
respect y'all. Y'all got
Appreciate
this
you for
shit
coming through, bro.
bubbling. I love the platform. I
Fact.
think it's a great platform. A lot of people got a lot of platform, but you know what? To give people their own voice, and like you said, don't use the platform to belittle or shame or diss anybody. Just tell your story the best way you can.
That's it.
And just support their platform. And
That's what
that
we
I'm
here
with
for.
all day long.
That's what we're here for. And listen, man, with that being said, man, we appreciate you, man. And with that,
Dog in the Yard.
Dog
you
in the
already know.
Yard, your
Kick
boy
him out,
Supreme,
kick him out. He
Tone
talk
BX
too
all
much.
day.
You already know.
Listen, OG,
Appreciate
baby.
you,
The
dog.
grades,
Nice.
the
That was
grades
nice.
spend the
That was
grades
great, man.
show a lot.
Yo.
What up? It's your boy BX Tone in the building. First and foremost, I want to thank Supreme from Rosedale for coming through. sharing his story, different trials and tribulations. I mean, started in the 70s, went into the 80s during the crack era. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, he spoke about the complications that he'd been through with the police, with other individuals on the block, other individuals from Southside, Jamaica, Queens. And ultimately, you know, he did a 4-year prison sentence. After that prison sentence, he got back to society and became a change maker. I mean, we've heard some of the behind the story of, you know, individuals like Tony Yayo and other individuals from Queens that started out with Supreme from Rosedale. So with that being said, I'd definitely like to commend him, because Supreme is a legend from Queens, right? And he didn't come here to shine no negative light on anybody else, but he wanted to come here and tell, you know, certain missing parts of some of the stories that we hear from so many other individuals. With that being said, we appreciate Supreme for coming through. #1 draft pick is his brand, but he also had that first choice clothing line. With that being said, listen, we here, we telling the real stories, right? We closing the gaps, because there's some individuals that we don't hear about, but we trying to cover everybody that's out here standing up in an honorable way and providing interventions inside of some of the communities to make our communities better. Remember, as public health professionals, we do good work, because the only thing that comes from good is good. We're community intervention specialists and human intervention specialists, helping individuals get into their sweet spots and their end games and becoming the best versions of themselves. With that being said, BX Tone in the building, Dog in the Yard, peace.
Welcome to Infinity of Inglewood. My name is Antonio, the finance director here. Today we're showcasing a 2022 Infiniti Q60 Red Sport, 400 horsepower, 18-inch rims, candy red. We don't only have Infinitis, we have BMWs, Mercedes, Lamborghinis, Jaguars, Range Rovers. You want it, we got it. A car like this with only $3,000 down, you're looking at $299 a month. And remember, mention Pistol Pete, Dog in the Yard, you get your $1,000 discount.
Dog in the Yard is about second chances. I bring those same opportunities to real estate, not only here in Tampa Bay, but throughout the entire United States. I'm Gustavo Torres with Florida's First Choice Realty. I make real estate moves simple and stress-free, helping families and individuals like yourself find stability through buying, selling, or investing. From the yard, straight to your front yard.
Whipping it, skirting the bands. She wanna pay up.